You ready, Shirley? All right, I will bring the February 7th, 2023 Board of Education meeting to order. Thank you. Roll call.
Kate Thomas,
Here.
Troy Carr,
Here.
Deb Baker,
Here.
Jim Hansen,
Present.
Clay Colomb,
Here.
Jamie Clapham,
Here.
and Michael Berkland.
Here.
And tonight for the invocation, we have Randy Phipps from Midtown Church. Please go ahead.
One says push, green button. Once again, thank you for the opportunity and the invitation to come and participate in this public forum and the benefit of our community. I am a result of Rapid City School education, Garfield Elementary, Wilson Elementary, Robbinsdale Elementary, Annie Talon Elementary, South Junior High, and Rapid City Central High School. But I support them all, and I'm proud of your involvement today. As noticed earlier, the nameplates switching around and stuff. Thank you for your position on the board, in the administration, for teachers, staff, parents, students. We're in this together. And I pray a blessing and the joy of the Lord. Would you join with me, Father? Thank you once again for this night and for this time. You know, Lord God, each of us, you have plans, and we are willing and joyfully here tonight, Lord God, to be about your business and to fulfill our obligations to educate children. Educate this responsibility. Let people educate. Thank you for giving wisdom and discernment to this board, to this administration, bringing honor and glory to you, and blessing to our families and to our communities. In Jesus' name I pray.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, I will need a motion a second for the approval of the agenda. I do want to say that I would be adding other with your guys' approval at number 14 instead of the executive session, and executive session would be 15.
Madam President, if I can interrupt here.
Yes.
I would also like to make a motion to make an amendment to the agenda to add a resolution opposing the social studies standards. I have copies of it, and I also have a digital copy I would be willing to share.
Okay, then we would have to vote on whether that would be amended to do that. One, I think we need to do first the approval of the other, adding the other. All those in favor of adding other?
Who's the second?
Michael.
Thank you. Okay, cool.
Aye.
All those in favor of adding other?
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, and adding the amendment to have a resolution? All those in favor?
Do we need a second first? or-
Yeah. you need a
And then
second.
discussion.
I will second.
All right, discussion. Go ahead.
What are the policies in reference to resolutions? Don't we have timeframes that we have to do as a board?
Yes, we do have a policy that says resolutions have to be in and approved of for the agenda 7 days prior. That is a policy. Now, there is also another policy that does say that board members can add an amendment to an agenda and add something to it, but all those have to be in favor of that. There has to be a majority vote.
Could I have the resolution read first?
Sure.
Thank you, Michael.
So this is just the ASBSD's resolution, if you've seen that and are familiar with that, just with our Rapid City area schools in it. Oh, yeah. Thank you. It says, we, the Rapid City Area School Board, opposes proposed social studies standards for the following reasons. Whereas, one, the process of revising the social studies standards was done in a manner that did not consult the expertise of South Dakota educators in their development, as has been the practice for decades of standards revisions. Two, the proposed social studies standards are not based on educational best practices, but rather are written as tasks, not standards. Three, many of the proposed social studies standards are not age appropriate for students, lack depth of knowledge, higher order thinking, and do not address skill development. Four, the proposed standards would require excessive contact hours to teach students, which would take away time or take time away from other curricular subjects. 5, current social studies materials used in schools do not align with the proposed social studies standards, which will result in new materials, teacher training, and resources needing to be purchased at a high cost to schools. Therefore, we, the Rapid City Area School Board, respectfully ask the State Board of Education Standards request that the Department of Education reconvene the social studies standards work group from 2021 with instructions from the work group to revise their draft with consideration of the Social Studies Content Standards Commission's proposal. The goal should be a third proposed set of standards as a compromise between the first 2 social studies content standards proposals.
Further discussion? I would just comment that I planned on having a writing one that had some of these proposed points. Not all of them. I don't feel that it's appropriate to copy and paste. I think we are a unique board and we have our own opinions that should be placed on this. I don't think some of this is quite accurate, that beginning with the very first one, that the expertise of educators was not consulted. There were some, I don't have their names off the top of my head, but I would rather this be written accurately and with some time for this unique board, but still coming before the final vote that the State Board of Education would have on these social studies standards. I think this board is in agreement that we, from last time on our discussion on these social studies standards, I think we all agree that they are too much and they are written more like a curriculum instead of standards. So I think we can all agree that we would not be in favor of them. However, this was proposed, was not done in the timely fashion with our other policies, and we do have 2 clashing ones. I just don't want to rush this. And would be not in favor of this myself, as I wanted to write one myself that we could all take a look at and agree on ahead of time instead of being blindsided like this. So, yes, Jim.
Michael, just for clarification, you said this is verbatim from ASAB.
It is, yes.
Thank you.
And if I could add one more thing.
Sure.
I think it is important, and as we rescheduled our study session because of this, we do have this hearing on Friday that is in Rapid City, that we, as a school board, say something before then. You're right, I did send my initial request the day following our study session. So we could have had this discussion 6 days ago as well. But once again, this has been kind of jumped up on this. We were expecting this in, I forget if it was March or April that they were supposed to be out here. And now suddenly they're coming on Friday. So that is the reason that I have chosen to bring it at this meeting, rather than waiting for us to do it in a few weeks. I don't think it will have the same effect if we wait a couple of weeks.
Any other discussion?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I am in agreement that we need to have a resolution opposing the social studies standards. And in receiving calls, I understand that there are people that are not concerned, that feel that the timing of it before Friday is important. But I too would have liked to have had more time to even write our own, even if it's most of what is in here, just to be able to say that we wrote our own resolution. So I'm just kind of concerned about the timing, and I'm not so sure that if it's not done today and it's after Friday, that people won't know that our school district doesn't support the standards. So,
Mrs. Swigert.
President Thomas, I do have, I don't have copies of it because I wasn't prepared for that tonight. But I have, if I can share my screen, Shirley. I do have one that Director Seals and I thought about adding to our study session last week, but nothing can be voted on or acted on in the study session, so we removed it, but I can share it now with you. That I think addresses a little bit more of Bishop Carr's concerns. I'm not finding it. Once, I apologize. I had it open, I swear.
Well, while you're finding, I think my point is that it doesn't allow for different statements, different opinions, different options besides what we have here.
So this one, I think, reflects a tad bit more of Rapid City area schools viewpoint on this. Is that big enough? So this one is on Rapid City area schools. The draft was created on January 26th, but I could make any changes directly at this time on this document. South Dakota teachers, administrators, and school board members from around the state made clear in public comment and testimony during the State Board of Education standard hearings their serious concerns with the proposed social studies standards from the Social Studies Content Standards Commission. We, the Rapid City Area Schools 51-4 School Board, oppose the proposed social study standards for the following reasons. The process of revising the social studies standards was done in a manner that was inconsistent with past practice. South Dakota educators were not allowed participation in these proposed standards. We could word that a little bit differently. The committee had one educator and one administrator on the committee of this standards. But they were given the proposed standards. They did not write the proposed standards. And I think that's the purpose of statement one here. As has been past practice for all standard revisions. The proposed social studies standards are not based on educational practices, but rather written as a series of tasks, not standards. We talked about that in depth at the study session last week, that it's more of curriculum. Many of the proposed social studies standards are not age appropriate for students, lack the depth of knowledge and higher order thinking. The proposed standards do not address skill development. The proposed standards would require excessive contact hours to teach students, which would take time away from other curricular subjects. The previously approved social studies standards lend themselves easily to integration with other content standards, while the proposed standards do not encourage integration with other academic domains. Current social studies materials used in schools do not align with the proposed social studies standards, making their implementation complex and the transition between the two sets of standards difficult for students and teachers. Therefore, we, the Rapid City Area School District 51-4 School Board, respectfully ask the State Board of Education Standards Commission request the Department of Ed to reconvene the social studies work group from 2021 with instructions for the work group to revise their draft with consideration the Social Studies Content Standards Commission's proposal. The goal should be a third proposed standards that would move forth for public comment, testimony, and a final adoption.
All right. Go ahead, Deb.
I think what concerns me is that they just want to use the work group from 2021 and just not use 2022. I think they should maybe use both.
Okay. Jim?
So as we all have got bombarded with emails, and thank everyone for doing that, I don't think we need to get in the weeds. Michael, thank you for bringing yours forward. If you agree, I would like to put the second one in only because it's more from us than the other. But I'll tell you, I think just making the statement, Bishop Cars, you said prior to Friday, just making a statement saying, we're done. Clean up your act, or we're gonna have our own. Our staff, a lot of them are here, not the entire staff, but the fact of the matter is if they're willing to come and say something and they're willing to send us very, very well written reasons why, I think we should listen. I don't need to make it mine. Thank you for bringing yours. Thank you for giving us yours. This is more towards us, and if Michael would be apt to just pull his motion only to, not the complete motion because we need it there, but to just switch them around. I'm okay with this because trust me, the state doesn't care how far in the weeds we go. They ain't gonna listen. All they're gonna hear is the newspaper saying we had turned it down. So
I would be happy to amend it to this one.
May I make a point of order? I
Yes.
think what we're discussing right now and clarify if I'm wrong, of whether we're gonna go, it's gonna go on the agenda.
right.
So
That's
it'll be
right.
a separate vote and discussion whether what format. So right now, we're just
We just
deciding
took
on
it to
should
the
it
next
go
level.
on the, okay, yeah. So we
Absolutely,
need to
sir.
back up a little
Right,
bit.
right. Perfect.
See if it's gonna get on the agenda and
Thank you.
then have a discussion about what we're gonna do.
Thank you for that clarification. Go ahead. Clay. Oh,
Well, based on Bishop Carr's point, my discussion was more after on the agenda, so I'm lowering my hand.
oh, gotcha. Go ahead, Clay.
I would just echo what Jim said. I agree on doing that and obviously in the proper order of procedure here. So.
Okay, so let's discuss whether we're putting the resolution onto the agenda,
A resolution.
Yes.
a resolution
Yes.
onto the agenda. And I guess the only other thing I would say is that I would like more time to look at and read that instead of this 5 seconds. I don't think it's pertinent to have it before this hearing. There still is another hearing in April before the vote on this. And I would like to have at least a little bit of respect for some of our other policies. If these policies are clashing, we need to look at that. Is it not enough for this board to already, all of us, our opinion to be, and the news is here to say that we don't agree with these proposed standards? A resolution does put it into writing, but if as long as it's before the vote that the state board actually makes, that's what's important, I think, that we take our time and our due diligence as board members to make sure what we are signing our names to in resolution to, that we have really read through them. And so I would not recommend putting it on tonight's agenda, but we shall have a vote. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of, well, let's do a roll call. In favor of putting a resolution onto this agenda. Kate, no.
Troy,
Yes.
Deb,
No,
Jim,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2.
All right, now with that addition to whatever item you want to put on under, I have a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. We are on to sharing the success, Ms. Swaggart.
Thank you, President Thomas. My favorite part of every board meeting is the celebration of success. Tonight, we have a few things to celebrate. We are going to start tonight with the Rapid City Public School Foundation. They are here to do the above and beyond selection. I think, as you know, the Rapid City Public School Foundation are huge supporters of all Rapid City area schools and staff. I serve on their board. They are a pleasure to work with. Every year, they have a sponsor who donates cash to people who go above and beyond. So they collect all of these cards and they're going to draw some names and some people are going to get some money.
Good evening. I'm Gretchen Burke. This is Bob Chalberg, and beside him is Deb Frederick. We're from the Rapid City Public School Foundation, and we are going to be selecting 20 cards out of 413 cards for going above and beyond. And these cards were submitted for many of the staff members of the Rapid City Public School system who have contributed in a positive manner for students and staff. So I'll start and hopefully not mispronounce any. So we will have Greg Williams from Stevens High School, who's a custodian. Jesus Garcia from Stevens, who's a teacher. Okay. Jennifer Wright from Jefferson, speech pathologist.
You want to go a little slower so sure we can get them all wrote down?
Sure, sorry. Janelle Kleinschmidt, Southwest School, secretary. Kylie Roy, Valley View Elementary, 4th grade. Sean Nielsen, West Middle School, a social studies teacher. Danielle Hines, West Middle School, social studies, 7th grade. Amanda DeMaria, Canyon Lake, 3rd grade teacher. Okay. Caleb Davis, Downtown Rapid City Area Schools, IT Tech. Melissa Edwards, Canyon Lake, 1st grade. John Merritt, Valley View, STEAM. Holly Hoffman, Canyon Lake principal. Jessica Russo, Canyon Lake, Dean of Students.
How are we doing, Shirley?
Okay. Bobby Camstead, West Middle School, substitute. Carrie Smith, Stevens, teacher. Lori Trillian, Corral Drive, 1st grade. Terry Ferris, Blackhawk, PE teacher. Caleb Davis, IT department, computer tech. Okay. Lindsay Rummel, Southwest Middle School principal. And Kimberly Reagan, Rapid City High School, Rapid City Area Schools, substitute nurse. So, and we will be drawing again in 3 months around May. So we can ask that others continue to submit more cards. And the delivery of these awards will be this week.
I had a quick question about that. So do the recipients actually get to see what's written on their cards eventually? Okay.
Yes, they do. Yes.
So a big thanks to Danny Manholt. A big thank you to Danny Manholt because he sponsors this with $1,000 and he does another $1,000 in May. So, and I got to tell you, last year I was able to deliver probably 20 or 30 of these, and it is so. It brings such warmth to your heart to give these. I mean, it's a $50 gift card, and I always tell them, spend this on yourself. Don't spend it on your kids because they always spend just something for their classroom. So it's really a fabulous, fabulous program that Danny Manholt sponsors. So thank you.
So the rest of these cards will go into the next drawing. And then we return all of them so they can see their compliments. I have to share 2 stories that I totally love. There's a lot of good stories, but when I delivered one last year, the administrative assistant got it the year before and she said, oh my gosh, I loved getting my $50 because I went and bought a George Foreman grill. And she said, every time I grilled, just a little grill, I thought I went above and beyond. It was so cute. And then another one said, I'm going straight to Hobby Lobby. So it was just fun money for them. And so it is a really fun thing. So I would encourage people to turn more in because it's a big deal. And even if they don't win $50, it's fun to read a compliment. So.
All right, on to students of the semester.
Yes, I have more great
Oh, okay, great.
news.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. So one of my meetings, that one of the things I get to work with this year is the Student Voice Forum, and they were talking about how so many of them volunteer. And then I learned that we have a student volunteer of the semester. So it was first semester. Any student or staff person could nominate a student for Rapid City Area Schools Student Volunteer of the Semester. In the 22-23 school year, we will be selecting one student in December and one student in March. All students were recognized for their student volunteer of the semester will also be shared with the Helpline Center Community Spirit of Volunteerism Committee for additional community recognition and opportunities. I'm going to start tonight with Rapid City High School's student volunteer of the semester. Ms. Roberts, would you like to come up as well? Rapid City High School student volunteer of the semester is Kaylee Wood. Kaylee has volunteered in a variety of projects. She has volunteered at the Minnelusahan Senior Center, Black Hills Works, and in support of the Youth City Council. Kaylee is truly a kind person who displays empathy for those that need a little help in the community. She is dependable, flexible, and creative in all projects that she gets involved in. She is always willing to help others, even at short notice. We are lucky to have Kaylee in our community and in our schools. Yes. Stevens High School. Ms. Hafner is here. And Megan. Molly. Oh, I can't even read. I apologize. Molly Churchill. Molly has volunteered for a variety of projects, including Take Action, a collaborative project with Rapid City Area Schools, Youth and Family Services, Stronger Youth Program, and Working Against Violence Incorporated, and Senior Citizen Prom at the Minnelusahan Senior Center. Molly is a quiet yet powerful young leader in our community. Her actions speak much louder than her words. She engages in service work and empowers her peers to get engaged in service work too. In the past year, Molly has engaged in projects with increased confidence and professionalism as she tries new things outside of her comfort zone. We are fortunate to have Molly as a resolute community member and volunteer. And Central High School. Central High School, Adriana Young. Adriana Young has volunteered for a variety of projects and organizations. She currently serves on the Rapid City Youth City Council, the Youth Action Board with the South Dakota Continuum of Care, and the Youth Task Force with Black Hills Regional Homeless Coalition. She has also engaged in service work of NDN Collective in the past. Adriana is fair and open-minded in the work that she does. Even if she feels uncomfortable with the topic or decision, she is respectful to others within the group. She is a strong advocate for our community's unhoused population and is determined to learn their stories and help provide access to resources when appropriate. Adriana also does well at bringing Lakota culture into discussions in a way that empowers others to be excited about the learning taking place. You can, okay, I have more, but not about her. I have a closing statement. I got ahead of myself. So I had much longer biographies given to me, but they are also amazing. I would have been here a really long time. So we shortened them up and you can read more about these students' volunteer work on tonight's agenda online. And then one thing that didn't make the agenda for a celebration that we just cannot overlook is it is National School Counseling Week. And we need to recognize all the great things that our school counselors do in each of our buildings. They help students dream big. So I have a National School Counselors Proclamation I would like to read. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development. And whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further educational, personal, and social growth of their children. And whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential in realistic goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in schools, I hereby proclaim February 6th through the 10th, 2023 as National School Counseling Week. Thank you, President Thomas.
All right, now on to persons wishing to address the board. We do not need to amend the amount of minutes. We have exactly 6, so that is our 30 minutes allotment time, 5 minutes each. Just really quickly, issues that affect individuals or particular schools should be addressed at the building level first. Speakers should focus on the main points. Personnel matters or complaints that are directly, indirectly identify employees shall not be discussed. And to maintain a civil dialogue, threats and intimidation are not allowed. First speaker, we have Sarah Schultz.
Good evening. I can't see with my glasses on. By way of introduction, I'm a 1981 graduate of high school in Hot Springs. I went off to college, graduated with a bachelor's degree in secondary education in 1990. Joined the Air Force, did 20 years in the Air Force. I have a specialist in education degree in curriculum design and instruction, and I'm halfway through a doctorate, almost ready to finish that up. So education's my game. How about that? I'm a third generation educator. And I wanted to speak to the South Dakota Social Studies standards. I'm also a South Dakota State certified advanced political science high school teacher and chemistry. Weird, I know. Okay, all science. So I just wanted to let you know that I did print these things off. It's rather large, and curriculum is a big discussion these days. So I just want you to know I did look at the whole thing, and I was actually encouraged by what I saw. And I understand the difficulties that exist in matching standards with curriculum with an actual classroom. I've been there. I'm a classroom teacher as well. But I wanted you to know that the last time I looked at the NAEP, the Assessment of Education Progress for the Nation, the civic score is really low, really low. And so it's the lowest score. And unfortunately, with our young people, we are the government, we the people, we are the government. And so I just want to encourage our board here and then our state board as well to adopt standards that are strong and clear and equip these students to do civics and live out social studies in their lives, in their daily lives. With the Constitution, there were actually areas in here that I would strengthen it more in the actual application of the Constitution to whatever is coming our way. The Constitution is a gateway that stands between us and federal overreach, and the state and we the people need to know it very well. So as you develop standards, I understand the issues with these, but I do agree with the strength in here. The strength and the focus is magnificent. And I understand that in the classroom, it's a little more difficult, and they probably do need to be fine-tuned specifically. But I would challenge you to support a standard that supports our young people in preparation for life, so they know what their Constitution says, what their country is, and how it works. So that I think that is very important, so that they might have meaningful application in their lives, and so that they can be the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jennifer Mazuski. Macheski.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, President Thomas and fellow board members. The majority of my speech was to advocate for you to pass a resolution. So I'm going to switch my speech over to thank you for doing this tonight. I was spent yesterday in Pierre for Teacher of the Year events, and I really noticed yesterday that time is of the essence, politically and also in our classrooms and with our students. And so doing this tonight was the best choice. So thank you for that. And enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, Sarah Gross.
Much shorter than Jen. Good evening and board members and those watching and here in person. First, I too want to thank you for the study session last week. I have looked back at the board minutes, and the first time I came and talked to you about the social studies standards was on September 20th. That's when the only teacher committee member, Sean Nielsen, gave his, he spoke to you as well. I came back on October 18th, and I think I was back in December, and I've talked to many of you personally. And so I do not disagree with strengthening our social studies education for our students, but I do really think that these social studies standards and the lack of a teacher voice from across South Dakota is really important, and that this just isn't the right set of standards. And I really hope that your resolution tonight, if you choose to do it, I really hope that it makes a difference at the state level, because in all honesty, we can do a resolution, but if it doesn't impact those 7 committee members, then we're presenting teachers with a rock in a hard place. If I wrote an article to the Journal, and thankfully they gave me a little bit of space to talk about my son. And, you know, the Magna Carta is something that's introduced in 1st grade, and that just the skills that are going to require that knowledge, they take a long time. And our kindergartners, our 1st graders, our 2nd graders are really learning to read, learning to write, learning their numbers. I think Michael gave some examples of like the properties of a triangle is a 1st grade math standard. And so if we want our students to learn more about social studies, we have to give them developmentally appropriate tasks and things. Otherwise, teachers will close their doors, and we don't want to devalue standards. And so I please do pass a resolution. I agree with Mr. Hansen that the nuts and bolts aren't as important as you saying, we've looked at these, we've had a study session, and we're opposed to them. It will make a huge difference to the teachers across our school district. Looking at the terminations and leaves and following how many positions we are short around the district, we cannot wait. The time to do a resolution is before the state meets in our town 3 days from now. And so it's not 2 weeks after it. That will make a difference, but it will make more of a difference tonight. So thank you so much for your time and conversation.
Next speaker, Linda Lee Viken.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. First of all, I would say thank you for your service, because you are in the battlegrounds much often yourself. I am a lawyer, but before I was a lawyer, I was a teacher, and I taught civics, social studies, whatever you want to call it, because it was a little bit of each. And I also taught economics. I had the privilege of serving for 8 years in the South Dakota legislature. And I was also the first woman magistrate in Pennington County. And I'm here tonight to ask you to oppose these social studies. These are not standards, they're curriculum. And that's against the law. SCCL 13-12-1.1 One, which addresses the promulgation of rules relating to curriculum, states, this is to the board. Nothing in this section authorizes the board to require the use of specifically designated curriculum or methods of instruction. However, when you review the 126 pages, which I did read, I have it marked in various places. It reveals that it's really curriculum. It's telling us what needs to be done, how it should be done. It's tasks, and tells us that our students need to memorize all of these things. That's not possible. What's in there is not possible for the students to be able to do. It says the standards say that the goal is not to create research-based students. Really? We don't want our students to know how to research. We don't want our students to be engaged in the learning process. Memorization is good for some things, but it's not good overall for the future of that student. They need to be able to think for themselves because their life ahead requires making decisions. There was very limited input from teachers on this second round. The first one had 13 grade levels represented and 40 to 45 educators in total involved. I think those people probably know about teaching social studies. After that initial group was relieved of its obligations, and the second came, the group had 15 members with only one teacher, one administrator. And besides that, they were handed a draft already done. Well, and my understanding is they really were told they couldn't do much to change it. That's not how we put things together. That's not how a group we should have teachers involved in would have handled it. Besides that, these standards were drafted by someone who doesn't even live in South Dakota. Doesn't know anything about teaching in South Dakota. A very serious concern that I have is that the contents of the standards is really not age appropriate. I defy you to take your child and have them look at what they're supposed to learn and figure out how they're going to do that. You've heard examples of that, and I won't take your time with that, but I just ask you to read some of those and see. I know as a teacher for those areas, I read the things and I thought, oh my goodness. And also I thought it was interesting that these standards have 127 standards. The previous ones were 28. And what I think is going to be the result, if these are adopted, is that teachers will leave. And you won't be able to hire teachers. Nobody will want to come here and teach. Because what also is significant, I think, is that there are 127 standards, curriculum, that have to be taught. And there is, I believe, 107 days of school. Boy, we got to teach one every single day. And only one day. That doesn't make any sense. And of course, you as a school board have to be interested in the fact that there is a cost for this. And it's estimated the cost here would be about $2.8 million.
That is time, thank you. But really quickly before you go, would you quote to me again the South Dakota codified law that you mentioned?
Yes.
13.
SCCL 13-12-1.1.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And my time is up.
Yes.
And I just think you need to think about that cost. There's only $800,000 set aside for the entire state. Thank you for your time, I should say.
Next speaker, Annie Bachard. Bachard?
No.
What is it?
Annie Bashan.
Bachard.
Yeah. It's an old South Dakota name, 4 generations worth.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today, for doing what you do. Thanks for bringing it up, Michael. Thanks for your insight over there, Mr. Hanson. Hi, Jim. You know, I was sitting here listening to this and I was in Pierre today. So I got up at like 3:30 this morning to drive out to Pierre and talk to people. And then we got back here so we could be here tonight. A group of us did. And I was thinking about civics and social studies and this whole experiment we've got going on here right now in our society, right? And it goes around in a big circle. People agree, right, Bishop, and they disagree. And right now we're in this place of what are we going to do? What kind of road are we going to lay out for our students? So I think about the power of curiosity and what Linda talked about, you know, this memorization, there's hundreds of hours and thousands of pages on memorization doesn't create an opportunity for the power of curiosity and discernment. And regardless of where we sit with how we think about things, I have no doubt, Deb, that you want your kids to be able to discern things, to do research and to figure it out and to look at things and go, does this align with my values? We all want that. Doesn't matter who we are. I believe you want that, Kate. We want to be able to discern things. And so when we look at standards, don't we want to be the best that we can be in the country? Don't we want our students, our future generations set up to be the best that they can be? Isn't that what we all strive for? So why do we want to go back? Go back to a time that's already been disproven. That the most important tool that we can teach is encouraging the power of curiosity and the ability for discernment. So I really hope that you make this critical decision that we've elected you to make the hard choices. We've elected you as leaders to make a decision and to take a stand in a timely, effective, efficient manner. That means that this resolution has to be done tonight. To wait on that is to abdicate your responsibility to us who elected you. And to let down our kids and our teachers and so many people that have worked so hard to get as far as we have. It does matter. The timing does matter. It makes a difference. Your voice makes a difference as a school board. So thank you again for all that you do.
Thank you. Last speaker, Heather Baxter.
Good evening, board. I appreciate your time and your service. I felt that the study session last week wasn't completely fair to both pros and cons. I heard mostly just the cons. I'm not saying that the standards are quintessential. I haven't seen perfect curriculum or standards yet anywhere. I did notice that the standards were offering an additional year for the transition. Last week in the game of name the grade level, after examples of standards were presented, I felt it was somewhat misleading because equal representation wasn't shown for both sides. I never heard how the information students learn would be explained, how kids would participate or learn the content. So for example, children in first grade, are they watching a 5-minute video a few times a week? Do they dress up with that era of clothing? Are they sampling food from that time? So I looked at the standards and read through them. I did see that kids give examples. They identify as well as draw and tell stories. I didn't see anywhere where they're having first graders do a 50-question test of passing them or failing them if they can't tell the difference between a globe or a map. It encourages critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and memorization. I'm not sure about you guys, but I had a lot of memorization in school. I know many physicians, and they've all told me that they had to do a lot of memorization as they went through their schooling. When you research education online. South Dakota comes up being ranked B- to D- on the proficiency. That's just what I got online on numerous sources. When you look up our district average, it doesn't even hit 50% on proficiency scores. And like the person prior to me said, don't we want our kids to be the best they can be? I find we have a problem if we're not meeting even 50% on our proficiency scores. But maybe that's normal now. As a community, I think we should encourage the children to be their best, not look at hard topics on the proposed standards and say no, just because you don't know the vocabulary, how to pronounce the event, or that you're uncomfortable with the topics because maybe you never learned them yourself. I think the standards have opportunity to definitely be tweaked in many different ways. As I read through the standards, they specifically said that they should not be exhaustive, nor should they prevent teachers from teaching topics or items not listed. So they encourage the teachers can teach outside of that. Standards are a common foundation of knowledge shared by all students, regardless of background or school attended. The standards say they focus on history and civics instruction free from political agendas and activism. As a parent, I find this very important to learning about historical figures, maps, documents, etc. The standards say students demonstrate in such ways as naming, explaining, telling stories, locating, listing, reading. Nothing says these kids have to know every country on the globe in kindergarten. It just says that they can distinguish between a globe and a map. The standards offer training. Last week, the slides on the screen said there's no training. Last week, a board member also said it'd be very expensive, which is true, but there is also money set aside for the transition. New curriculum is purchased for the local schools in our area on a very regular basis. I come to the board meetings and I watch when COI puts up the financial paperwork, and I have seen that we spend a lot of money on curriculum. Just like the upcoming math standards. How much can math change? Obviously a lot, because we're going to be spending thousands on new math books. The standards incorporate more Native American history, which is appropriate for South Dakota. Last week, we were told only one educator had input, but in fact, multiple did, as well as Native American representatives, parents, state legislators, history and government experts, as well as business leaders. School should be challenging. These children will be challenged on college and their careers. These children are our future. They're going to be doctors, lawyers, presidents, governors, and this incorporates high level of learning for when they reach their careers. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you. All right, we move on to board response to open forum topics. There seemed to be only one topic tonight. So do we have any hands? No? Okay. All right, we will move on to student representative reports, starting with Kevin Big Crow from Rapid City High School.
Hello, board and everyone that came to attend tonight. I appreciate your guys' time and patience with me today. As a great, I don't know exactly what to call you, but I would say a spectator for now. Gave me a joke that I would like to lighten up the mood with. What do you get when you cross a snowman and a vampire? Frostbite. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Continuing on, tonight, I want to start off by offering a public thanks to all the hard work put in from our main office staff. This year, we welcomed a few new faces to the front office. Most recently, we welcomed Jill Potter as a new attendance secretary. In November, Samantha Wentworth joined our team as our registrar. And in December, Renee Data started as our record secretary. Peggy Wendell has continued as our truancy secretary from last school year. Finally, serving as the building and principal secretary is Rhonda Lip. Also stationed on the front office, but mostly found in the hallways, is our beloved security guard, Lori Fippen, one of my favorites. This group of dedicated individuals do more than any of us will ever realize. On behalf of all students and families at Rapid City High School, I want to give them a big shout out and say thank you for all you do. Continuing on with more great excitement, learners all around Rapid City High School are busy writing essays this week in hopes of winning the Rushmore Rotary Club's four-way test essay contest. The Rushmore Rotary Club has been a longtime supporter of Rapid City High School, and each year they sponsor essay contests based on Rotary's guiding principles. Learners have until March 3rd to turn in an essay that reflects truth, fairness, goodwill, and benefit to all. Many staff members are using this opportunity to promote building-wide school improvement goal of increasing our English scores on the SBAC. Also focused on improving learners' SBAC scores is the building's interim testing and lesson schedule. This month, we have extended our advisory periods to allow for more direct lesson time, addressing English and math lessons that are filling in gaps for many learners. Addressing agenda items, I would like to just address one agenda item on tonight's agenda that's already been shared. Agenda item 5, sharing success. I would like to express my personal congratulations and offer congratulations on behalf of the entire Rapid City High School student body to Kaylee Wood for receiving the first ever student volunteer award at Rapid City High School. It's an honor to be considered one of your peers and an inspiration to see such dedication to service. Congratulations, Kaylee. In closing, I would like to remind you of our school-wide expectations at Rapid City High School. Be respectful, be present, and be courageous. Respectfully submitted, Kevin Bickrow.
Thank you so much. All right, on to Megan Jew from Stevens High School.
Hello, everybody. I'm Megan Jew. Thank you guys for being here today. So to start off, the Stevens wrestling team participated in the Belle Fourche wrestling tournament, and it was a great success. And the Belle Fourche activities director directly reached out to Mr. Vasquez, the Stevens activity director, and the wrestling coach, Mr. King, to thank them for all their help in Belle Fourche. And this Thursday is senior night for wrestling, so make sure to go support. Additionally, the Stevens basketball teams have had a very busy season playing in Huron and Sioux Falls the past 2 weekends. After playing in Huron, Mrs. Hafner received an email from the custodian noting that the locker rooms Stevens had used were amazing and, quote, "it might have been cleaner when they were done with it than before they got there." So thank you to all the Stevens activities and basketball teams for showing extreme Raider respect. Last Thursday, 11 Stevens athletes signed with colleges to continue their athletic careers in college, so congratulations to all of them. And then Simeon Birbaum, a senior at Stevens, competed at the Junior International Mile in Boston, placing 3rd in the nation, and was also named South Dakota Boys Cross Country Gatorade Player of the Year. So big congratulations to him as well. Last Monday and Tuesday, kids performed one acts in the theater at Stevens, and they also performed at the state one acts play festival last week. And in the AP US government class, the Attorney General of South Dakota, Marty Jackley, is going to be a guest speaker in the class. So that'll be super interesting for kids to hear from. Coming up is Stevens' annual beauty pageant, Mr. SHS. 9 Stevens seniors will be performing their talents, dancing, and competing against each other to win the title of Mr. SHS. It's going to be February 24th in the Stevens gym, and all the proceedings will be donated to the Children's Miracle Network, so make sure you attend. And lastly, we'd like to extend a thank you to the Stevens counseling team. They've been an amazing help, especially as a senior applying to college. I can't count the number of times I've had counselors help me out. So a big thank you to them.
All right, thank you. Laura Jensen is absent with notice, so we are on to the conflict of interest. There have been none turned in. So on to the first reading of policies and procedures. I need a motion and a second. Jim and Deb. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Really quickly, Shirley, are we going to put that resolution after? Perfect. Okay. I need a motion for the approval of the consent. Jim and Deb again. Anybody want anything pulled? Okay. And I will pull O. Any others? All right, with the exception of B and O, all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, on to bids. I do need a B. I need a motion and a second. Troy and Jim. Discussion.
I just had some questions. I'm almost embarrassed by pulling it, but, and if I need to call Mr. Knowles, I will. But I just had a question of how often do we get new band uniforms? Who picks the style? Just kind of how that happens.
Bishop Carr, there's probably some folks out here that can answer this better than I can. I want to say that it is literally like a 25-year replacement period.
Okay.
I've talked with Mr. DeGrew at Stevens several times, and they are anxiously hoping that they get their nod to move forward with replacement of their band uniform. Central is this year. Mrs. Hafner, is that correct in that time period, like a 15 to 20 year, I want to say?
I've been there 16 years and I don't remember. So that,
wow.
It is a considerable amount of
Yeah.
time, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think obviously they put the specifications of those uniforms into a bid, and we bid it formally as we would any other type of equipment. They are expensive, obviously, which is why you have a longer period between replacement of those items. But it is a considerable amount of time between replacements of that equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
Bishop Carr, I would add that the reason they last the 20 years or more is the absolute care that these band programs take care of the uniforms. For instance, when the students come off the field at Stevens High School, mothers are assigned to be down on the track, and they pull the hat feathers and they put them in boxes. And I consider one of the moms who did that last year a friend, so she was telling me all about it, and I watched it myself. But they take the feathers off, they put them in these boxes that protect them, and then before they go out again at halftime to perform, they put everybody's feathers back in their cap. And if we didn't do that, they would not last, 20 years. So although it is a very large expense, we'd be spending more money more often if our band directors didn't care so much about this and our students didn't respect these uniforms so much.
All right, thank you. I was a tuba player in the marching band, so when I saw that, I was quite curious about that. So thank you. I think 25 years is a long time, so.
Yes, sir.
All right, without any other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, on to O. I need a motion and a second.
I'll
Deb
second.
and Jamie. Discussion. I pulled this just to give recognition to Mr. Knowles, Jack Knowles. He'd been with us for how long? You can give us a little bit more history, but I know he's been in the community teaching band, or not band, just instruments in general, including even personally to my own 3 brothers, the bagpipes, along with other people. So quite an extraordinary man. And we are naming a gym after him, our high school auditorium. Go ahead, give us some more.
Thank you, President Thomas. The family of Jack Knowles wrote the request to rename the auditorium. They put a lot of work into it because they knew the procedure and the practice. I will summarize some of this. Mr. Jack Knowles, John, known by Jack Knowles, passed away 8 years ago. His surviving family members feel that it would be fitting to honor him in renaming the current Central Auditorium, the Jack Knowles Auditorium. And if you're familiar with Central High School, that is the old Thrust Theater that is called the auditorium now because we have the very nice theater. They go on to share that John C. or Jack Knowles moved to Rapid City in 1969 to become the first band director of the Central High School bands. He held this position until his retirement in 1992. During this time, band flourished, winning numerous regional marching band competitions, as well as being guest band for parades in Las Vegas and appearance with the Stevens High School Marching Band at the Denver Broncos game. His bands were also invited numerous times to perform as featured guest concert band at the South Dakota Band Masters Convention. In 1975, Jack Knowles started the tradition of overseas touring with the band, a tradition that continues to this day. He also co-directed the Rapid City Municipal Band and taught music appreciation symphonic band at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. Jack was also one of the first people in the area to teach the bagpipes. They are, like I said, very well versed in how this policy works. And that includes the signage will be located on the building's exterior wall north of the east entrance, and the signage would be in the form of white block lettering in the same style, as the exterior Howard Nas Gymnasium lettering that is located on the south side of the east entrance. And the family members of Jack Knowles would fund the cost of this signage. So it is at no cost to the district.
Thank you for that bit of history. I just wanted the public to recognize that that's what we were doing here tonight.
Madam President,
Yes.
that request is attached as well to the agenda if anybody wants to read the history.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Now we will move on to the item 12 being now the resolution. Would you, I don't know if you received my text, but could you have that printed for us, your version? I do much better in paper than I do online reading. And I hope that the public is patient because this will require writing.
President Thomas, would you like me to share my screen again so that I can type it if we make
Sure.
any changes
Yes,
directly
please
on
do
the
that.
document?
I see, Jamie, your hand is up. Oh, sorry. Oh, sure. Okay.
Madam Chair, perhaps Mr. Big Crow could tell more jokes in the
Yeah,
interim
if
time.
you got any more, let us know.
Why don't scientists trust atoms?
Say that again?
Because why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. I'm on it. I'm on it, guys.
Thank you, Shirley. Did we both find things? Did we both find things?
right, Jamie, did you want to go ahead?
Sure. And I don't necessarily know, like, I don't wanna go necessarily out of order, but I wanted to, one, just say. I think, like, we are a diverse board, which is important. We all have strong opinions. We all have things that matter to us. But also, obviously, we need to represent our community, and our constituents. So I very much, looking at and hearing, the speaker's comment on the line at the end, I was kind of scratching down an idea. So this was an idea that I had, when we get to the bottom, request the Department of Education, instead of where it says reconvene the work group in 2021, say a new work group that combines members of 2021 and 2022 work groups, as well as adding new members as needed for a new, complete and well-rounded work group with the goal to be a third proposed standards.
And I think we need to add in that it must include teachers from all grade levels.
I like it.
All right, I think I do want to, and I'll get to you in just a second, Mr. Carr. I think we should go through top to bottom. And like I said, I hope you have patience, because this is a writing, since like you said, we all have personal opinions. I think some audience members might be able to appreciate this being factual and clear and simple. I think resolutions should state something, especially if we would all want to agree and all vote yes on this, leaving any personal opinions out of it, keeping it clear what we want the state to do and what the facts are in the whereas part. So let's go with go ahead and make your comment if it's a comment or.
If this resolution is approved, can it be amended later, changed?
See, that's my problem. As written right now, I would vote no, not because I am against or for the standards. I think that there's some things that need to be taken out, making it simpler. And this is at that moment that we're approving, and she said that she could amend it right now, or we vote as is.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, once we vote whether we accept it or not, whatever is written, can that be amended so that if tomorrow, because again, the timing is quick for me, but so that if we find out something that we don't like or shouldn't be written or should be written, can that be done?
No.
It is what
It is what it is tonight.
Thank you.
It cannot be amended later. Okay, so with that said, can we go top to bottom? The first, can anybody or do we all agree with the first two paragraphs?
When you say first.
South Dakota teachers, administrators, and school board members from around the state made clear in public comment and testimony during the State Board of Education Standards hearing their serious concerns with the proposed social studies standards from the Social Studies Content Standards Commission. And then we, the Rapid City Area School Board, oppose the proposed social studies standards for the following reasons. Anybody want anything in those first two paragraphs to change? Okay, let's go to the whereas. Number one, the process of revising the social studies standards was done in a manner that was inconsistent with past practice. South Dakota educators were not allowed participation in these proposed standards, as has been practiced for all past standards revisions. Any proposals to that?
You know, I understand, and again, I'm trying to like hear and process. And I heard Kate, you kind of, so I think for me, and obviously I think you probably have your own, but instead of where it says we're not allowed, I think you could strike not and say we're allowed minimal. And that would be more fully accurate.
That's one proposal. I would propose that we strike the sentence completely, because I think the first sentence just says the process of revising these social studies standards was done in a manner that was inconsistent with past practice, period. That way we don't have to say particularly how many were involved, were they involved? I mean, it just gets into the weeds.
I think it's an important note that educators were not heavily consulted though, as opposed to previous standards revisions. I think that that is one of the key points about the fact that the process is different. So I personally agree with Jamie's, or what I was thinking was very few South Dakota educators were allowed participation, something along those lines, but I'm okay with what Jamie said as well. But I do think it is pertinent that South Dakota educators were allowed minimal participation.
As Jamie also pointed out, that we put in the bottom part with more heavily educators being involved. And that's not a more positive language without saying no participation was allowed, or changing it to say something that may or may not be factual. Jim.
I'm the one that brought the leads, but I will agree with Michael. Just a short little, very few. Very few at the beginning and then move on to the next.
Strike that.
And strike now.
What was your amendment?
What I was saying to say, so it would read this way: South Dakota educators were allowed minimal participation in these proposed standards. And you could almost honestly, because it does seem a little redundant, not in a manner not inconsistent with past practice, and saying the past standards again. After the comma, you could strike that. Just say South Dakota educators were allowed minimal participation in these proposed standards. And I think it would be accurate and make it cleaner and shorter, more concise.
If we strike, so we say we're allowed minimal participation, and then strike as has been practice for all past standards revision. I would be okay with that. Okay, are we doing a thumbs up like? Okay, all right, moving on to number 2, the proposed social studies standards are not based on educational practices, but rather are written as a series of tasks, not standards. Anybody disagree? Want anything changed?
I don't know what I would change, but I was intrigued by the speaker that talked about they may be educational standards, but some people don't approve with that. So again, you just not say they're not educational practices. Maybe they're not practices that we in this district would prefer. So
What about the phrasing, if you said based on widely accepted educational practices? Because what's broadly accepted is that curriculum is task and not standards, because that's what it's trying to say. And I hear what you're saying, that it's like, it's a little bit unclear. And so you could interject something that said not based on widely accepted or generally accepted educational practices.
Well, and even that, we don't know that for sure. That's not a fact. That's an opinion. Education or English teacher, would you help us out with that wording? Okay, I hear it.
That's a great idea.
that's what you don't want. It's not, we're not, you don't want to accuse somebody else of wanting it. It's not what.
They're already gonna be mad. They are. Who cares?
That should be said.
So what do you propose?
I think that I would propose, the proposed social studies standards are not based on widely practiced Rapid City area schools, educational practices. We talked a lot last week of this being curriculum rather than standards. So I would maybe strike that the proposed social studies standards are viewed by Rapid City area schools as a series or as curriculum rather than standards.
All right, say that again
The
for,
proposed social studies standards are viewed by Rapid City area schools as curriculum rather than standards.
I like that a lot better because that seems,
Oh, sorry.
That was what we discussed.
Yeah, I think that's.
Verbatim
specific.
about-
Yeah, I think that's.
Yep,
Because this is our resolution, right?
it's supposed to be. Right.
I think that's more specific.
Okay, yeah. Okay, number 3. Many of the proposed social studies standards are not age appropriate for students, lack depth of knowledge, and higher order thinking. The proposed standards do not address skill development. I would propose to strike the proposed standards do not address skill development because they're not supposed to. That's part of what the lady brought up earlier, that the standards are not supposed to be specific in what you're supposed to do. That's the curriculum, that's the teacher. So I'm not expecting those proposed standards to address skill level.
I think what it's saying though, and I will say I'm not opposed to striking it, like I'm all about concise, but I think what it's saying is saying building on like skill development, it's asking skills in kindergarten and then repeating the same skills in 3rd grade and repeat. So it's not addressing like advancing their capability. I think that's what it's intended to say. I'm not saying it needs to stay in there, but I don't think it's saying, oh, it's not specifically addressing it. So it's saying it's not addressing appropriate rate of skill development. Again, I don't think it would be inappropriate to just strike the line altogether. Like, I don't think that I don't feel like it loses a ton of power if we just strike it.
We could replace skill development with vertical alignment, and I think that's getting at.
Well,
what
again,
you're getting
that's
at.
in the curriculum and that's the teachers.
Vertical
that do the
alignment should
pacing.
be in the standards. Like the math standards say in 3rd grade, they do this, 4th grade, they do this, so that in 5th grade, they can do this.
And
English
I-
standards do the same.
Why can't we just end it at the end where it's age appropriate for students, period? It's just not right for the kids.
But if you compare the two next to each other, which I did, our standards that we have right now, they don't have that either. They're like just basics, like 3 compared to the 20 on the other side that are the proposed. So there isn't that skill development in ours as well. So I would propose to strike it, just keeping this simple.
Just that, the last.
Yeah, just the last sentence.
So remove the proposed standards do not address skill development
Mhm.
and leave it at many of the proposed social studies are not age appropriate for students, comma, lack depth of knowledge and higher level or higher order thinking.
Right.
If I may add, though, I just looked up the current standards and they do have that vertical alignment. I'm looking at one of the 2nd grade standards and it says in 1st grade, they explain why compelling questions are important. So that in 2nd grade, they can explain, compare and contrast the historical principles and philosophical principles. So that in 3rd grade, they can gather relevant information. So our current standards do have that vertical alignment. For the record, I'm fine with getting rid of it. Like Jim said, I don't want to get in the weeds, but our current standards do have that.
Yeah, and I think we are getting in the weeds if we leave it in there.
Well, and that's the purpose of, I mean, if you're gonna write it and it's permanent, right, you gotta do this work, so. You gotta get in the weeds to get it right, so.
We could add another list and it's a list of, we can add another comma and we could say, many of the proposed social studies standards are not age appropriate for students. Lack vertical alignment, are missing vertical alignment, lack depth of knowledge and higher order thinking.
Okay, I'd be okay with that.
Me too.
You okay?
He's oh my.
He's like, what did I get myself into? Is everybody else okay with that? All right. All right, 4th, the proposed standards would require excessive contact hours to teach to students, which would take time away from other curricular subjects. The previously approved. Social studies standards lend themselves easily to integration with other content standards, while the proposed standards do not encourage integration with other academic domains. I do not know whether this is true or not, but I am willing to keep it as it is. Any proposals to strike anything? Any additional comments, Ms. Swaggart? Jim? Okay.
Last one, Jim.
Current social studies materials used in schools do not align with the proposed social studies standards, making their implementation complex and the transition between the two sets of standards difficult for students and teachers. And I'm okay with that.
What about parents?
Students, teachers and parents?
Yes, I would agree.
Like it, Jim.
Minor thing, can we make that a parent / guardian?
Yeah.
Therefore, we, the Rapid City Area School District 51-4 School Board respectfully ask the State Board of Education Standards Commission request, no, something doesn't sound right. Respectfully ask, respectfully request.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But we are asking them to make a request.
We're asking the State Board of Education to request of the Department of Education to reconvene the work group.
All right, let me read that out loud again to see if it sounds right. Therefore, we, the Rapid City Area School District 51-4 School Board respectfully ask the State Board of Education Standards Commission request the Department of Education reconvene the Social Studies Work Group from 2021 with instructions for the work group to revise their draft with consideration the Social Studies Content Standards Commission's proposal. That is a long sentence.
Yeah, we're good at this.
Yeah. The goal should be a third proposed standards that would move forth for public comment, testimony, and final adoption. I do like that last one.
Didn't you have a?
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of like what we're
So
saying.
Deb and I just had a little side between both of ours, what we think will work.
So let me know where I'm starting to type, please.
Aaron, when you get to. So when you get to request the Department of Education. So we strike from reconvene all the way to proposal.
Okay.
And it would change to a new work group that combines members of the 2021 and 2022 work groups, as well as
Hold on, that combines the,
members of the 2021 and 2022 work group. As well as adding new members as needed for a new well-rounded work group that includes educators from all grade levels.
Except for, where it says combined, I think we need to put on there portions from both groups, because if you combine the one had 50, I think the other one had 20.
Right.
So we want portions.
we said combines members, portion, combines.
Portion.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But they're
Is
gonna
it
do what
almost
they
looks
want.
like, well.
That's
but I
what we're
say, but
just
our
asking
meaning, yeah,
for.
our meanings, it sounds like.
They
we're
are gonna
saying
do what they want.
5 to-
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you say
Yep.
it's to
Mhm.
have a portion.
Yes.
To do what?
Yeah.
Would we go with the,
And then I think for me, the last sentence should say is the goal should be, like, yeah, take all that out, and the goal should be under proposed standards. And that,
That's maybe the goal, as am I on? Yeah, maybe the goal of this new work group should be. Like we need an antecedent or whatever they're called now.
I'm sure Swagger knows what it's supposed to be called.
I would be okay with that.
I'm gonna say the goal of the established work group. Or the newly established work group.
Yeah, I like that better.
As long as it doesn't go onto another page.
Spread the margins.
Work group should be a third proposed standards that would move forth for public comment, testimony, and final adoption. Would you like me to read that to you? Therefore, we, the Rapid City Area School District 51-4 School Board, respectfully ask the State Board of Education Standards Commission request the Department of Education create, sorry, that's why we reread things. Create a new work group that combines a portion of members from the 2021 and 2022 work groups, comma, as well as adding new members as needed for a new well-rounded work group that includes educators from all grade levels. The goal of this newly established work group should be a third set or a third
Yeah, set of proposed standards, I like.
third set of proposed standards that would move forth for public comment, testimony, and final adoption.
We are the Rapid City Area School District, dashboard board of education.
Okay.
Do we have that somewhere else too? Yeah, we have it at the top too.
This is why we need all of us.
We have it up top too, Nicole.
Yes.
Okay.
In the WIDA.
I also changed the date at the top, just so you know. And I added, in number 2, I added 51-4, so it matched every other time Rapid City Area Schools was mentioned. It included 51-4.
On the same consistency, we have work group is 2 words in the third line and then 1 word at the end.
Okay, I will.
And then with
How do
that
we
change,
want it? It's right both ways,
I would
but,
like it together.
okay.
And then
Where is it separate? Mr. Berkman?
third line down in the last paragraph. New work.
Oh, yes, thank you. And comma where, Shirley?
I think right by the end.
Oh, yeah, not after.
Yeah. The RE, it just said boards. For consistency. Or did you change that to Board of Education?
Your mic's not on.
Sorry.
On the RE at the top, or to say
Yes,
Board
I
of
will change-
Education.
I will change that as well.
Oh, it does. There.
Board of Ed, it's correct there, right?
Motion for approval, I guess.
Hold on. What I need is a motion for this amended resolution.
Wait, what was Shirley saying though before?
Or Ms. Schreier, it should be South Dakota Teachers Administrative and Board of Education.
Thank you.
I'll make whatever that motion is you were talking about. To put forth this amended version for approval.
I second it.
Yes.
Michael made the motion, Jim second.
Well, it's debatable, but
Any other discussion?
I'm of the learning that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Items. It's definitely unorthodox, that's for sure. This is a first. You're all here to witness.
Send it to you.
I guess it would be item 13, items for board information. the 21st Century Application South Park and Rapid Valley. Is that you, Mrs. Swaggart?
Yes.
I'll give you a second.
I'm trying to send this to Shirley so she can do her magic with it and add it to the. You want, Shirley, would you like the link or the copy? Thank you for your patience, President Thomas.
Sure.
Black Hills Special Services Cooperative would like to submit a grant application for the 21st Century Discovery After-School Program and summer programs at South Park and Rapid Valley Elementary Schools. The 21st Century Community Learning Centers program is established to expand community learning centers that provide students with academic enrichment opportunities, along with activities designed to complement the students' regular academic program. Centers provide a range of high-quality services to support student learning and development, including tutoring and mentoring, homework help, academic enrichment, such as hands-on science or technology programs, and community service opportunities, as well as music, arts, sports, and cultural activities. Centers must provide academic enrichment activities to students that attend high poverty or Title I school-wide schools to help them meet state and local standards in core subjects, especially reading and mathematics. At the same time, centers help working parents by providing a safe environment for students when school is not in session. It is recommended that the Rapid City area Schools Board of Education authorize the grant application submission of the 21st Century Discovery Programs by Black Hills Special Services Cooperative for South Park and Rapid Valley Elementary. And what I would add to this request is that this is expanding a program that we have in title schools already to encompass 2 more programs. And as we look at our learning focus calendar for the next 2 years, it would also allow these schools to have on-site care for our early releases.
Okay. Any questions?
Just one quick, is it our staff, like, does this grant pay like our staff, is different staff hired?
They hire, Black Hills Special Services hires the Discovery Program. I think Mr. Sassy could speak to it. I know that that is a program that he has utilized out at Valley View, and with some hiring issues, it was canceled for first semester, but is it back on now, second semester? Okay.
Yeah, so essentially we are participating in kind with this grant request. They use our facility, but the grant and Black Hills Special Services provide all of the necessary components of the program. So the staff, any materials necessary. Really, the only thing that the district is inputting is our facilities in kind. It's a great program. My daughter has utilized it for several years. We were really disappointed that they had to shut the program down because of the same issue that we're all struggling with, which was the inability to hire people and keep them in the program. They had hoped that they would get it back up and running December, January of this year, and they have not been able to do that yet. So, but a great program, great opportunities for the kids and the parents and guardians of the district. So,
Any other questions or discussion about it? All right, thank you. All right, on to superintendent report.
even though it's been 3 weeks since we had our last Board of Education meeting, I'm going to be able to keep this very short. So, since our last Board of Education meeting, I have attended a wonderful PAC meeting, the Parent Advisory Committee meeting at North Middle School, hosted an inter-school teacher meeting that was, so enjoyable, I think, on both behalf of the teachers and of myself, that we have talked about increasing the number of times that we get together and talk. So I'm excited about that. I serve on the Elevate board, and I attended a meeting with that group of community members and found that very informative. I've also met with Rhapsody Education Association. I attended a nonprofit leaders appreciation luncheon that was a great opportunity to network with so many people in our community. It was hosted by the John T. Vukovich Foundation, and they brought in a speaker. But I think networking for me was the best part of that event. I worked with Game Fish and Parks and our local law enforcement to craft a wild animal policy or procedure, because we had a mountain lion call in in the valley, and we did not have great communication from all the parties that be. So we established how that is going to better take place in the future, which was a very good thing. I attended a mid-year data review with Imagine Learning Edgenuity, and that is our online program that we use at Juvenile Services Center, Wellfully, Arise, but we also use it for our virtual high school program and credit recovery at both Stevens and Central. And for the first time, we've had that program for many, many years, but they are in the midst of revamping how that program is working, and they offered us a mid-year data review, and I was so impressed with what they could show us, new things that we can get out of that program that we'll be sharing out with educators. So that was exciting. I traveled to Pierre. Well, first I attended a legislative Cracker Barrel at Western Dakota VOTEC, and there'll be another one this Saturday. They pick out about 6 local legislators, both from the Senate and the House, to speak at those Cracker Barrels. They're from 9 to 11 every other Saturday during the legislative session, and I would highly encourage Rapid City area school employees and board members to attend out there. It is very informative to hear directly from the legislators, and it does also give you a chance to have moments with them after they are done presenting. So it is very important that we are heard as an entity of our community, and many of the bills that are coming forth impact us greatly. Then I traveled to Pierre for a legislative day, education legislative day, and I know that other people attended for the teacher legislative day as well. I found that to be very informative. I got to meet with the large school group superintendents. I attended a South Dakota administration awards celebration, legislative gathering, where all of legislators from around the state were invited to have dinner with the superintendents from around the state. We were in direct competition with the realtors event next door, and educators provided water and coffee, and the realtors provided other beverages. So we were right next door, so they did come see us, but I told them that let's try to not schedule it the same night as the realtors next year. I also attended and watched the House of Representatives and Pierre and the Senate during a session, and I attended the Senate Education Committee meeting that discussed Senate Bill 57. So I found that to be very informative. So lots of exciting things happening right now. This legislative session is incredibly important because, at the end of it, we wish it was earlier, correct, Ms. Baker?
Mm-hmm.
We wish they determined our budget earlier, but at the end of this session, I wasn't calling you out for not looking at me. I'm just saying that we've had many conversations that we wish education funding was determined earlier, but it is determined at the very end of the legislative session. It is a 40-day session, And so no more bills will be introduced. They were all had to be introduced by 5 o'clock last Wednesday. So currently they're meeting and discussing the bills. I did find out that South Dakota's legislature has more bills proposed yearly in our 40-day legislative session than most states have in longer legislative sessions. So I guess we really care about what's happening in the state. But it is a very important time. So thank you very much for allowing me to travel across the state and represent Rapid City Area Schools. Thank you.
Would you give us all a list of the bills that we should maybe take a look at or be watching for as board members? And
Absolutely.
then this is something that we have done in the past where if there has been the only moment that we can talk to legislatures, we've gotten there early on the Cracker Barrels and asked any legislators that want to come in and talk with school board members. We usually use a different separate room. They can come in and say, what's your concerns? And we can at least have that conversation if we haven't been able to have it prior, like the legislative breakfast that we.
Yeah, November and December was not very good to us
No, it
because we attempted to schedule multiple meetings and the weather did not cooperate.
Right.
And I'm positive, thank you for pointing it out, that I should have been sharing that with you. So I will.
No, it's all right.
I will get better at that. Thank
No,
you.
thank
very
you.
much.
All right. We are without any other questions for her. All right. We will go into executive session for South
I
Dakota.
thought we added other.
Oh, did we? We did. I didn't write it down. Shirley. All right, on to other. Do we have another? Jamie.
I know everybody's tired, so I'm gonna try to be concise here. One, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Mrs. Longland at South Canyon. I was invited to Mallet Madness music class, and I got to play xylophones and bongos, and it was just fantastic. And just example of a phenomenal teacher we have in our district. I could hang out in her class all day, so I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the teachers who let me kind of disrupt a little bit and see the first new math curriculum. So I appreciated being able to see that kind of in action. And finally, I just want to say, we talk so much about social studies, standards, and civics. And I think as applaud to all of us, social studies, standards, and civics, so our students can be better citizens. And I think what just happened, as long and tedious as it was, we showed our students what government and civics and how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to work. And I think that's exactly what we should be doing as leaders. And I think we should all applaud ourselves. Like, civics is important to us and to our students and our community. And I think we show that in the most vivid way we can. And I applaud us as a board for doing that.
Bishop Carr.
Thank you, President Thomas. I'm gonna put myself on a 5-minute timer, but I'm gonna read my statement on tonight. February is Black History Month, and it's a great time to educate ourselves in the African-American culture. And instead of celebrating one culture on February 26th, Faith Temple Church celebrates what we call All Nations Day. And it's an event celebrating all the diverse cultures that are in our church and community. I want to talk about cultural diversity and make a plea to parents of the district to educate our kids. My great nephew and his family moved here from Arkansas just last year, and right now they're staying with me. It was reported last week that one student at the school called him a racist name. A few days later, a different student called him the same racist slur. He also, in the reporting and investigation, found out that he had his head pushed and his hair pulled. My comments are not to talk about this particular incident, but to talk about educating our kids in cultural diversity. I'm asking parents to educate your students and that they will encounter classmates with different skin tones, eye colors, hair textures, language, clothes, weights, sizes, etc. Educate them that it's not okay to make racist statements to anybody. My nephew is upset, his parents are upset, and I don't feel great about what happened. We are in the business of education, and I want to use this example to educate all of us to be respectful and sensitive to the cultural diversity in our districts. My comments are not to lecture people on their personal feelings about individual cultures, but to educate our students on how to have appropriate behavior while encountering people who don't look like them in school. As I've struggled with what to say and what to do, I have not had any contact of any kind with anybody at the school about this situation. How wonderful would it be to have further conversations about cultural diversity in our district? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Brooklyn.
I don't know if I want to follow that up. I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm sorry that's happening. I just wanted to shout out a few of our teachers. I was able to go to the STEM Ed conference in Huron this weekend, and there were 5 of our teachers, I think 5 or 6, presenting, and I should have looked up their names, but you don't get anything for presenting. They were just out there to share their knowledge and spread the word about great teaching. There were even more that attended, and so same thing. They don't get anything for attending. They just went there to better their practice. So I just want to shout them out for trying to be better every single day.
Mr. Hanson.
2 things. One, Bishop Carr, in reference to your All Nations, I don't know if you've been contacted yet, but Sharon, from the owner of the Celtic Connection, she is planning a parade around St. Patty's Day because she is Irish, but she's calling it All Nations.
Wow.
And everybody is all invited. And I mean, it's a big thing they're doing. And they'll probably be getting a hold of somebody from the administration in reference to our bands and stuff like that. So just FYI on that. The second thing I wanted to bring up is I've been attending some of my grandson's games and I saw the most wonderful thing happen the other day when they were playing South. The coach for South was so compassionate and so wonderful. They had a student and he is just not as athletic as other kids, but he motivated his kids to circle around this kid and they would pass him the ball and the kid would shoot and the kid, and I have been told he has made a basket since, but the enthusiasm from that coach, how it infected the stands and how he guided his kids into being just special kids. It was truly amazing. And he is not expecting this. I do not know his name, but I will tell you, I was absolutely impressed with that young man and what he did for his team and how it affected the team that my grandson was on in a positive way. Thank you, ma'am.
That is good to hear. I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, now we're on to executive session for SDCL 1-25-2.1 and 1-225-2.3. And there will be no further action afterwards. I need a motion.
Motion.
Clay and Deb, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you, guys.